A ship the size of a small city, carrying enough treasure to build a cathedral, was swallowed by the sea. No wreckage, no survivors, no explanation. The ship and its thousands of tons of gold simply vanished into thin air. But here's the thing. An English pirate found the Madre de Deus ship, but he wasn't supposed to. And when he did find it, he not only looted the massive treasure hoard, he also triggered a 200-year war between England and Spain. It all began in 1571, when King Philip II of Spain decided to launch a massive attack on the English town of Cadiz. During the battle, which became known as the Battle of the Spanish Armada, a mere 1,300 English soldiers were able to defeat over 3,000 Spanish soldiers. It was one of the most humiliating defeats in military history, and if the king wanted to save face, he needed a huge propaganda win. And he thought he had it when one of his ships, the Madre de Deus, set sail from Peru loaded with gold, silver and jewels to build himself a new cathedral in Seville. The thing is, in those days, trade ships weren't protected by warships or even much of anything at all. They just sailed around hoping for the best. So when the Madre de Deus set out on its 4,000-mile journey to Spain, it was completely vulnerable to pirates. Pirates were so common that there were even pirate markets where you could buy your loot. Now, although England was a major trading partner of Spain, they also had something in common with these Spanish ships. They didn't like them. After all, they had just tried to kill each other 2 years prior. So, when the English privateer Francis Drake spotted the massive galleon on the horizon, he didn't think twice. He attacked. The fight was long and fierce, but in the end, Drake managed to board the galleon, kick out the crew, and steal the ship. But the treasures that filled it were even more spectacular than he had hoped. Most historians agree that the Madre de Deus carried roughly 8,000 tons of treasure, making it the biggest treasure haul in history. And it was all sitting right there waiting to be taken. But before he could escape, a Spanish warship arrived and opened fire. Drake realized that he couldn't outrun them, so he did the only thing he could. He ran into the shallow water near the shore and beached the ship. Then he blew up what he couldn't carry and escaped with the rest. To this day, no one knows what happened to the vast majority of the treasure, but what Drake found was worth about £2 million. He used some of it to build himself a mansion, but most of it was confiscated by the Queen when he died. Now, while this might seem like the end of the story, it really was just the beginning. You see, even though Drake had stolen the treasure, he hadn't technically captured the Madre de Deus herself. And the Spanish were going to make sure that he knew the difference. 3 years after the attack, a Spanish fleet chased Drake all the way back to England, looted several coastal towns, and then returned home with their heads held high. But the real retribution was far worse. In response to the attack, King Philip II declared war on England, and the Spanish began seizing and sinking English merchant ships across the globe. Between 1585 and 1604, they destroyed over 2,000 ships, killing hundreds of sailors in the process, and in 1592 they took things to a whole new level when they seized and sank the Madre de Deus. You see, when Drake stole the ship, he didn't realize that it was empty. The crew had fled and abandoned the vessel in favor of another one. So when the galleon was discovered floating off the coast of Ireland, it was filled to the brim with treasure. The Spaniards quickly put a new crew on board, armed them, and sent them on their way. 1 year later, the new crew of the Madre de Deus encountered a group of English merchants who thought that the ship was uninhabited. So they boarded it, killed the crew, and stole the treasure. It was then that they realized that they had made a horrible mistake. Not only was the ship still owned by the Spanish crown, it was also full of booby traps. The masts had been rigged with gunpowder, and when the ship rocked, it exploded. There was no trace of the ship or its crew or the English pirates who had looted it. Once again, the Madre de Deus had vanished into thin air. But unlike the last time, the Spanish weren't going to let it go. In 1596, they launched a massive naval attack on the English port of Plymouth. They had come to get revenge, but in spite of their fury, they were unable to do any damage. That's because the English had developed a new technology called a swivel gun. These guns were extremely powerful, and they changed the course of naval warfare forever. The Madre de Deus had been armed with cannons that shot straight forward, but the swivel guns could rotate and shoot in any direction. The Spanish Armada, which had been the pride of the Spanish Navy, was equipped with swivel guns, and it was an utter disaster. Their ships couldn't withstand the power of the English weapons, and within weeks, the entire fleet had been wiped out. For once, the Spanish were on the run, and the English were hot on their trail, but it would take decades for the two countries to reach open conflict. In the meantime, both sides continued to seize merchant ships and kill sailors. The English targeted the riches of the Americas, and the Spanish fought to protect them, and then in 1625 it all came to a head. England and Spain had been fighting each other for nearly 200 years, and suddenly neither country could afford it anymore. Fortunately for them, they were tired of fighting and ready to call a truce. The Treaty of Madrid was signed, and peace returned to Europe. The only problem was that no one bothered telling the sailors. For years, Spanish and English ships continued to attack each other under the guise of the old war, and the Madre de Deus herself played a part in the final chapter of the conflict. You see, the ship had been gone for 32 years. The original owner had given up hope of ever seeing her again and replaced her with a new ship of the same name. But when the second Madre de Deus set sail for the New World, she was attacked by a band of English pirates. The pirates won the battle, but they didn't find much treasure. Instead, they discovered a letter informing them of the treaty that ended the war between England and Spain. Ironically, the pirates were the last ones to learn that the war was over. And that's why when the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes was discovered by a team of explorers in 2007, it was a big deal. The galleon had been lost for 300 years, and it contained more treasure than anyone could have imagined. There were bars of gold and silver, jewels, emeralds and diamonds. It was like finding the mother lode. But the discovery quickly turned into a legal nightmare. Spain demanded the ship and its treasure back, claiming that it had been stolen during the war. Portugal agreed, saying that they had rightful ownership of the ship, but everyone forgot about the poor guy who actually found it. When the waters off Portugal's coast were declared illegal to explore, the explorer had to sell the wreck to a company based in America. But even that didn't work. Spain and Portugal went to court, and a judge ordered the shipwreck to be split between them, and then the explorer got sued by the American company. He was trapped in a treasure hunt movie gone wrong, but eventually everything was settled, and today the artifacts are divided between Spain and Portugal, except for one emerald. That was left in the hands of the man who found it all. Now check out. How did the Mayans lose their empire? Or watch. Why did Rome fall?